Today we're reviewing Thunderstone Quest by AEG. I'm Mark Maya. Welcome to BoardGame Coffee. Thunderstone Quest is a competitive 2 to 4 player deck building dungeon crawling adventure. Sounds awesome, right? I mean, everything about this game sounds like it's right up my alley. I love deck building, killing monsters, and collecting treasure. And Thunderstone has all of that, with a variety of heroes, monsters, weapons, magic items, etc. Even talking about it gets me all excited. So why does this game frustrate me so much? Woosah. It's not exactly that I'm frustrated, it's more like I'm irrationally angry. After I read through the rulebook, I was left with this feeling of, alright, that seems pretty straightforward. Let's do this. Thunderstone Quest is riddled with things that just baffle me. And these aren't complicated matters, mind you, because it's not the function of the game that's confusing, it's the instruction. For example, but not limited to, the rulebook does cover what happens when you take damage. You draw less cards. But what happens when you take so much damage that your health reaches 0? It's a question I had. Do you die? Are you out of the game? Is there a restart situation? Answer? None of the above. Gotcha. And that's fine. It's not the mechanic I have the problem with. It's the instruction, or the lack thereof. Nowhere in the rulebook does it say what happens when your health reaches 0, other than you draw no cards. Personally, I would interpret my character's health reaching 0, meaning that my character is now dead. But that's not the case. When your health reaches 0, you can't draw cards. That's it. That's what happens. You're basically immortal, which again is fine. I'm not arguing the mechanic. I'm arguing the instruction. And instruction is important, because if you're watching this, you're probably considering buying Thunderstone Quest, and dealing with the instructions is a major part of that experience. If you're going to go against normal conventions, you need to tell people these things, especially new players. I shouldn't be looking through your FAQ or scouring the forums of BoardGame Geek looking for such basic information. Ah, yes, of course. Duh. Thank you, Mr. Buttmunch69. Oh, and according to the rulebook, the treasure chest icon on the bottom left corner of this card denotes that this is a treasure card. But the exact same icon on this monster card means that you get a treasure when you kill this monster, not that this monster is a treasure. So the exact treasure chest icon located in the bottom left corner of those cards means two different things. One icon, two meanings. Here's a novel idea. Don't use the treasure icon on the treasure cards, because it's mentioned in the rulebook that these gold coins at the bottom of the card also denote that this is a treasure card. Why do I need two different icons to tell me what I'm looking at? Now, I know no rulebook is perfect. I've gone through forums before with questions about other games, but never so soon or so frequent for the most basic of information. I can go on about the questionable decisions used to convey information in this game, but honestly, I don't want to waste any more time on this game than I already have. Okay, that was a little harsh. Thunderstone Quest isn't a waste of time. Once you decipher the rules, it's actually pretty easy to teach to pretty much anyone. There's really not much to it. And that's part of the problem. When I saw this quest book for the very first time, I was stoked. I mean, just look at all these quests. Wouldn't you be excited? Aren't you a little excited? There's a story for each, which I like. It tells me the exact cards I need for each quest, which is awesome. And the cards are easy to find thanks to these beautifully illustrated dividers, which I love. And this is just some of them. There's so many dividers in this game, which is really cool. If anything else, I have to give Thunderstone credit for being the best organized deck builder I have ever had the pleasure of sorting. Oh, and before I forget, the art in this game is really nice. Kudos to the artists. I look forward to seeing your art in other games. But enough of all that. Let's get down to the gameplay. I do like a lot of the mechanics used in Thunderstone Quest, although I find the game gets boring pretty fast. Now, to be fair, I didn't play through every quest available, but I never really had any interest to. Because no matter what my quest was, go there, fight them, find this, kill that. The game played the same every time. Kill monsters until you find 4 keys. That's it. Every time. You don't even have to fight the boss that shows up at the end. And there's never any threat of the game winning. So who cares if there's a boss? I can't even die. Which seems like a missed opportunity to add a little more tension to the game. Because Thunderstone Quest does feel like it's fighting back. Which is good, but it doesn't matter, which is bad. It all comes down to whoever has the most points at the end, you or your opponent. Basic stuff which is completely acceptable, not the problem. The problem is, I don't ever feel like I'm actually playing against the person sitting across the table from me. It's more like we're playing our own solo game. I don't ever feel like my actions have any impact on my opponent. Sure, as you play through the game and unwrap new cards, you do get some cards that affect your opponent, but not in any way that's all that significant. They do their thing, I do mine. We're not really playing against each other. What we're doing is playing two separate games while sitting at the same table. And at the end, we tally up our points, and the player who scored the most in their solo game wins. Personally, I'd rather play Clank. Now, there's a deck-building dungeon crawler where my actions actually affect my opponent. One Thunderstone quest mechanic that I do like is the option of going to the village versus going to the wilderness. It's got a risk-reward system that appeals to me. Go into the wilderness and risk taking damage to get cool treasure. Or stay in the village, rest up, and miss out on all the cool loot. Although you do get to shop. And Thunderstone Quest does a really good job of conveying the feeling of being in the village versus being in the wilderness. When I'm in the village, I feel safe. But when I venture out into the wilderness, I get that sense of foreboding danger around every corner. Based on the game experiences I've had with Thunderstone Quest, I'd have to say the game's a tad unbalanced. I've always had an easier time generating hit points using spells versus swords. But maybe that's just because I haven't played every quest that the game has to offer. Maybe there's a quest out there that favors physical decks versus magic. I don't know. Like I said before, I didn't really have any interest in playing more to find out. But that aside, the most unbalanced thing in my experience has got to be the side quests. Each player gets dealt 3 random quests and selects one. If the player manages to complete the side quest that they selected, they get a bonus, either during the game as a legendary item or at the end of the game as bonus points. The problem is you could be dealt 3 side quests that each award you a legendary item, which sounds cool, and sometimes they are. But my opponent getting that one legendary item didn't hold a candle to my quest, which awarded me with +2 points for every spell I had at the end of the game. In my last playthrough, that exact quest awarded me with an additional 20 points at the end of the game. That's huge! I basically shopped my way to victory, where my opponent, who was never randomly offered this side quest, was awarded a whopping 3 XP from their legendary item. Sure, my opponent's got a cool legendary item to use throughout the game, but the benefits it offered was hardly enough to make up the difference. Not even close. So in short, Thunderstone Quest is not balanced. Some matches may be balanced, but if only some matches are balanced, then the game itself is not. And in a competitive multiplayer game, balance is crucial if you want to offer a fair experience. So, final verdict? I wanted to like Thunderstone. I really did. There's just better deck builders out there to choose from, both competitive and cooperative. In the end, the game is kind of meh. You might like Thunderstone Quest in the short run, but it doesn't have the staying power to bring it back. I'm just going to come out and say it. Do not buy Thunderstone Quest. You have better options. If you like this video and you'd like to keep up to date on what we're doing here at BoardGame Coffee, subscribe here. But if you'd like to watch some videos right now, click here. And if you're feeling a little more adventurous, check out our BoardGame Coffee Instagram account. We update it daily with cool new pictures and sometimes a puppy. I'm Mark Maya, this is BoardGame Coffee. And remember, have fun, keep gaming, be social. See you next week.